Hey there, this is Paul Coliani with another episode of Minutes to Momentum. I'm answering a listener email today, so let's do it. Hey, this is Paul Coliani with the Overwhelmed Brain with another episode of Minutes to Momentum. This is just a mini episode that I put in between the main show just as a filler. Just not really a filler, but I like to put stuff on the air that won't fit in the confines, the boundaries of the main show. And today is one of those things, and it's answering emails. So every now and then I'm going to come out with a Minutes to Momentum to answer an email, because there's a lot of important emails that I get about personal issues. And instead of answering them individually like I've been doing, I would rather share them with you in hopes that what other people are asking will also help you too. And I want to address some of these emails on the air, and I don't mean personally, like I'm not going to mention people's names and I'm not going to read the exact email, but I want to address the questions in general, because what happens is I'll respond, and this may be an answer that could be good for your situation too. So I don't mean to take people's privacy and put it on the air for the public, but what I am going to do is just generalize these questions so that maybe you'll hear something that applies for your situation. If it does, great. Then the answers that I provide, or maybe the advice I give, might be helpful to you too. And that's why I want to do this. So let's get to today's email and see where it takes us. Okay, this email has to do with a person who's been to counseling, been to therapy, and has talked about their past trauma and with other people, has expressed their trauma, has gone through the crying, has gone through a lot of emotional release. So they think. So this person says, I've talked over and over again about these events, yet I still feel like I'm trying to get it out. I'm still trying to process things, and the need to talk about it is still there. Now, is this because I'm not really digging in deep enough to really let those emotions come out, or am I just telling my same story over and over again? I mean, what's happening here? Why is that still inside me? And quite frankly, the answer is you can't release what you consciously know to be inside of you. Now, let me clear that up a little bit. It's almost impossible to release a negative emotion that you know well, what you know to be true. So, for example, I knew that I was a judgmental person. I just knew it. So I could go around saying, yeah, I'm a judgmental person. And I almost used it as a crutch. I'm not saying this person is doing that, but this can happen, is that what you know to be true about yourself is something that can be repeated over and over again to other people, but it can also prevent you from digging any deeper because you already know it, if that makes sense. It's kind of like you put what you know inside of a box. For the longest time, I knew I was judgmental, but I could not stop myself from being judgmental. But I knew I was. So I would learn about my judgment and try to stop myself from being judgmental, but I couldn't seem to get past being judgmental. In this person's case, it's a little different because there's some past trauma that he or she is having trouble getting over. And they think that by expressing themselves and crying about it and giving their emotions, what I call giving their emotions a voice, that it's helping them release. But I still come back to the what you know to be true inside of you is usually what's the hardest to release. It doesn't get released because it's still too conscious. So this person asked, am I not digging deep enough? And the answer pretty much is yes. You're not digging deep enough, but the hard part is, how do you dig deeper? Like, for example, if you've been traumatized or abused when you were a child, you know that to be true. It's like, okay, my dad did this to me, my uncle did this to me, my mom did this to me. I know that to be true, but how do I get past that. I talk about it. I cry about it. It still affects me. It affects my decisions, my behavior. How do I get beyond that? I go to therapy and I talk about it and I tell them everything and they ask me questions. How do I get beyond that? So it's the same question. It's like I keep experiencing these things, but how do I move past it? And there's a way to do it. It's a questioning process that I do on myself even. I think I mentioned a few shows back that one day I was driving along and I just felt this sadness come over me. And I was like, why am I sad? Oh my God. And I was like, I don't know why I'm sad. That nothing came up for me. So I just kind of talked to myself a little bit and just, what's making me sad? I had that question. What's making me sad? And nothing came up for me. So there's a question I ask myself, and it's this. What do I need right now? If I could have anything I wanted right now that would help me get over this sadness, what would it be? It's kind of like if I had a magic pill in my hand, what would that pill do to make me not so sad? I don't want to say make me happy, but make me not feel sad anymore. And then an answer just popped in my head. And I said, I just want to sleep. And that's what the answer was. For me, it was just, I just need some sleep. If I had some sleep, I would feel better. And I remembered when I was younger, every time I was tired, I would get sad. Now, there's probably something deeper there I haven't explored yet, but it hasn't come up to be a problem for me enough to actually explore this. But if it happens again, I'll probably explore it. But that's the answer that came up for me, is that I feel tired. I just want some sleep. So my answer to what do I need right now was I need some sleep. So that would be my first suggestion, is to ask yourself the question, what do I need right now that would make me not feel this way? It's important to word it that way, because what happens is if you say, what do I need to make me happier? Well, there's like a million billion things that might do that. But what do I need so that I don't feel this way? What do I need to make me not feel the way I'm feeling now? And an answer may come up for you. Now, here's what you do. If no answer, or if an answer comes up for you, or if no answer comes up for you, then the second question is, do I know what's causing this? That's a good question. Do I know what's causing this? If you know what's causing it, then that's what you know. You know what I'm saying? Now, what's funny is that after I realized I needed sleep, I no longer felt sad. I just felt tired. And then I went home that day and actually got some sleep. And then I did feel good, and I was no longer sad. It was just, for some reason, I think my body was rejecting the fact that I needed sleep, so I felt sad about it. Probably some deep emotional thing that once I got the sleep, I didn't feel it anymore. So there was some probably resistance inside of me or something. But another question to ask yourself is, and this one is obvious, what is causing me to feel this way? And I do like the way that's worded. What is causing me to feel this way? So if you feel anger, if you feel resentment, if you feel guilty, or all this other stuff, what happened in my life that causes me to feel this way? It's another way to word it. If you know what happened to you, and that's the same story that you tell other people, like this email, this person says, I tell this same story to other people, yet I still feel like I haven't expressed enough of it. It feels like it's still in there. My answer to that is, okay, if you know what caused it, or what you believe you know what caused it, the next question to ask is, what about that is bad? Now that's important, because when you ask, what about that is bad? The first thing that usually pops up for people is, well, of course it's bad. It's bad to have that happen to you. It's bad that I went through this. Of course it's bad. Usually when you have something that's an answer like that, like, well, of course it's bad that my dad or mom or relative did this to me. Of course it's bad. Or my friend or whoever. Of course it's bad. Of course it's bad because it's socially unacceptable or whatever. When you come up with the answer, of course it's bad, I want you to tell me the reason why, or at least tell yourself the reason why. Well, why is it bad? And you'll come up with something else that was like, well, it's bad because you shouldn't do that to other people. And then ask yourself the next question. Well, why? Well, why shouldn't you do that to other people? This is usually the place where people start to explore something new. They start to learn something new about themselves. When you ask the question, Well, why is it bad that Uncle Bill did this to me? Why is that bad? Or why is it bad that I got a bad grade in high school and I couldn't live it down ever since? Or I missed that catch and I lost my career? Or whatever the story is from your past. Why is that bad? Well, then you might have some great answer. Well, it's bad because I felt bad when it happened. Well, why did you feel bad? There's a lot of why questions. But you can also ask, what specifically causes me to feel bad? What specifically about what happened causes me to feel bad? You see where I'm going with this? These are the digging type questions that you need to get into when you cannot get past this emotional barrier, this emotional wall. When you think you're expressing, and you're telling people and you're talking to, whoever, professionals, counselors, friends, and you still have the negative emotional energy, the negative emotional charge behind what you originally talked about, then it doesn't go away because you aren't digging any further than that. You are already saying what you know to be true. What you need to find out is what you don't realize about what's true. What you need to find out is what you don't understand about what you know to be true. What you don't know that you feel about what you know to be true. This is where you need to take yourself to drill down into what is actually bad and how it is. And you don't really need to know the how. You just need to know what it is. Because usually when you identify what it is, when you get to that root, the root of the issue, suddenly you release it. Suddenly it disappears. Suddenly it loses its energy because it was discovered. Because once something is discovered, the mystery kind of resolves itself. Now, not always, because sometimes you'll discover something and you'll go, oh, I didn't know that was in there. I didn't know that was in there. Now you have another several layers of emotional energy to go through, emotional, if you want to call it, baggage to go through. But once you discover one of the root reasons that you feel a certain way now, you're either going to, boom, let it go right away, or it's going to open up another door. Now, don't be discouraged if it opens up another door because you are farther than you've ever been with the problem. When you open up another door, when I find more doors for my emotional stuff, I welcome it. I go, yes, this makes sense. This is perfect. Now I can address this. And you may go for weeks or months, and some people go for years, continuing to open doors. And I know people that say, I don't want to open any more doors. I'm sick of healing and growing. I'm sick of learning and going through all this personal growth. But they're only sick of it because they may have gone through quite a number of years of telling the same story. What happens when you start digging like this is you speed up the process of healing and growing. You speed up the process of getting to the root of the issue till eventually there's nothing left to dig into. It's gone. It heals. And if it doesn't heal and you find something that is so painful that you can't handle it, that's what you want to talk about with your therapist, your counselor, your support groups, or whoever you trust. Somebody that is safe to you, somebody that you can absolutely trust telling anything to, and then be vulnerable. That's the last step in this entire process, because when you find someone to share the hardest parts about yourself, the most embarrassing, the most shameful, the most things that you feel guilty about, things that you feel like if you told them, they would look down on you for the rest of your life. Things that make you so vulnerable that when you find someone that you can feel safe with and be that vulnerable person in front of them, it's healing, it's growing, it's releasing. Finding someone to feel safe with so you can share all this stuff with is releasing. It is. It just happens because you lay it all out on the table. And once it comes out of you, you don't have to worry about it anymore. You can close the door behind you and say, wow, I let that go. Great. This doesn't work with every single negative, bad thing that ever happened to you, but it works with almost all of them. But there are some things that happen to us as children that are just way beyond simply talking to yourself and asking yourself questions. However, that is the first step. You do need to go through this. You do need to figure out what is wrong so that when you talk to someone in a safe environment, that safe person in a safe environment, when you do talk to them, you know what to say. It's not the repeated story. It's not what you already know to be true. It's what you've dug into to figure out about yourself so that you can start your healing from that point on instead of this outer layer of what you think is happening. So thank you for the email. The person who wrote this, I won't mention your name, but I hope this helps you, and I hope it helps anyone who's listening that might need to hear something like this. I've gone through this process. I've had to release some stuff that I didn't even know was in there until I started digging like this. It is a digging. It's a drilling down process. So get to that point. Go beyond the story you know and get to the heart, get to the root, get to the innermost layer where the emotion is actually stemming from, where it was basically where that emotion, that negative feeling or feelings that were created. At that point, those negative emotions were created at that original event, the very first thing that happened. And then any event beyond that just compounded that emotion. So you may think at 18 years old, this is when that traumatic event happened. But then you dig down a little further and go, whoa, at 4 years old, I experienced something that was very close in the emotional energy behind it, the same way I felt at 18. So, at 18, it might not have been the original event, but at 4, it might have been. Or it might have been earlier or a little later. But typically, there's a starting point for how you feel when you feel bad, if that makes sense. So that's today's email. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Minutes to Momentum. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to send me an email, you can do so at paul@theoverwhelmedbrain.com. And I'll be happy to either reply to it personally, or if I feel it might help a lot of other people, I'll respond to it on the air like I am now, of course, keeping your privacy in mind. I appreciate you. I want you to learn and heal and grow and create the life you want. So have a great day or night. You are amazing. And I'll talk with you again soon.